So Gen Z and Gen Alpha, in particular, I would say Gen Alpha, but both of them, I think, would be the most reactionary generations in a long time, guys. Because millennials and Gen X haven't been as reactionary and as, I would say, radical as Gen Alpha and Gen X will be. And I'll tell you why in today's video, because I think that the left, or more than the left, I'd say, yeah, I would say the left made a very big mistake with this whole thing, which has been going on, and with Trump as president for the following 4 years, and with a strong figure like him in charge of the U.S., I believe that loads of people will be radicalized, and that's not because of Trump. Well, it is also because of Trump, but I'll tell you what's gonna happen. So, what do I mean by reactionary? I think that the system, let's just call it the system, let's just label it as the system, because I think it's the most appropriate word I can think of right now, so let's just use that word, has been suppressing young men and teenagers for the last 20 years. And today we will also mention people, and we will also talk about the rise of people and why those things have happened in the first place. Because the MSM is very opportunistic. That's the word I would use to describe them, or at least it's one of the words I would use to describe them. The MSM is very opportunistic. So we've seen controversial figures talking about masculinity and those sorts of issues rise. Why is that? So the MSM focuses on labeling them as misogynists, fascists, and far-right extremists. I'm talking about people like, I'm talking about the whole sort of manosphere, let's just call it in that way. I'm talking about Jordan Peterson. I'm talking about, I don't know, Andrew Tate, one of the most popular one, arguably. Him and Jordan Peterson will certainly be the most popular ones. Hamza, maybe, I don't know if you know this guy. But all of these people, the reason why they have risen is because, I think it's very simple. The reason why this has happened is because young men feel disenfranchised and they look for alternative solutions to the oppression that they've been feeling, so to say, and so to explain, I would even say. But regardless of that, the problem that there is with this generation, and I think the big mistake that especially the left made by suppressing all of these young men, because I think that young men, teenagers, people old as I am, people as old as I am, feel like they are oppressed, feel like they can't be masculine, feel like they can't make racist jokes with their friends because it is somehow offensive and because it is a problem. They feel those things. And young men, especially young boys, they're prone to be reactionary, to being reactionary. They're prone to those kind of things. They're prone to wanting to be enemies of the system to some degree. They want to outstand. That's what they want to do. That's what we want to do. And that's why Gen Z, in my opinion, is going to be one of the most radical generations in history. Trust me, guys, it's going to be like, we're going to have people, we're going to go against the system very hard. Because the pendulum is bending back towards justice. The moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Changes take a long time, but they do occur in the end. That's what's been going on. So the left, and more than the left, I would call it the whole system, the establishment left, the establishment right, both of them have been cooperating to suppress, I believe, the younger generation, to suppress in particular young boys, because I believe it all starts from young boys. It all starts from young boys, and then, by extension, it also affects young girls. So I believe that this phenomenon has been happening, and I believe that the reaction to this phenomenon is going to be very radical. The Gen Z is going to be right-wing, heavily right-wing. That's what I believe. It is going to be heavily right-wing. And I'm not one of the right-wingers, because I'm a centrist moderate. That's the way I've labeled me. I'm a rationalist. That's the way I like to call myself. The pendulum has been shifting, and more or less I would say the definition of left-wing or of fascism has been shifting towards the center more and more. Everything which isn't woke now is fascism nowadays. They've thrown the word Hitler, they've thrown the word Nazi at Trump so many times I can't even remember. And they throw the word Hitler and fascism and misogyny and far right to everybody who believes that men have dicks and can't have vaginas. They've thrown the word fascist and far right to all people who believe there are only two genders, etc., so on and so on. So the word fascist is being diminished to basically not being far left, not being woke. That's what I personally believe. And I believe, frankly, that today I could be considered a right wing, or even heavily right wing. Some of the MSM could say, oh, he's heavily right wing, he's a far right person. I'm not far right in any way, shape, or form. I'd argue that I'm center. I would argue I'm center. My ideas, my opinions, I think that if I had to compare them to a person in the media, I would say that they have similar opinions to Joe Rogan, more or less. And Joe Rogan he was famously a liberal, and he still is. But the problem is that the left is going so far left. Because guys, 20 years ago, Bill Clinton wasn't woke. Bill Clinton was against illegal immigration. So was Hillary Clinton 20 years ago. So was Biden, by the way. But now, the left is becoming more and more left. I think the right, on the other hand, has shifted less towards the right in the last decades. I would argue that this is true. I think that the left has been shifting towards the left far more than the right has been doing it towards the right. So I think the right has more or less stayed the same, but I think it is also shifting towards the left. Everything is kind of shifting towards the left, I would say, which I don't think is working so well in some cases, I would say. And the reactions that this thing is going to cause are going to be extraordinary. I am telling you that Gen Z and Gen Alpha are going to be possibly some of the most right-wing generations and some of the most reactionary generations. It's going to be explosive. And I'm all for it. I'm interested to see what's going to happen. Because, as I said, young men feel so disenfranchised and so oppressed to some degree. They feel like, oh, there is no freedom of speech. I read an article saying that 75% of men in Germany feel like there is no freedom of speech. And they're right, there is no freedom of speech probably in Germany. Or at least in Germany there might be. Even though, it's interesting, I'm going to bring up something which has happened this person died a couple of weeks ago. So there was this 95 or 96-year-old woman in Germany who died. And she has lived through World War II. And she was sentenced to jail for, I don't even know how much time, like in 2015 or 2014, so a decade ago. And the reason why she was sentenced was because she was either questioning or denying. I think she was questioning, or at least I think she had a different opinion about the Holocaust than the mainstream media has. I'm not going to talk about the Holocaust because I know nothing about the Holocaust, or at least I know the basics of what happened. I've never dig into it, so I cannot come to conclusions regarding whether 6 million Jews were killed, or it was 7, or it was 5, I don't know. But this woman has basically questioned the Holocaust, or denied it, or I think she questioned it. And some judges threw her in jail. Now, that woman was 83-year-old at the time in 2015, or how old she was, I don't know. She was 85, 86, whatever she was. But the thing is, how can you throw a person who's lived through that era in jail from reading a book? Like, this is just ridiculous. I think it's completely wrong. I don't think denying the Holocaust should be legal. I think it's wrong, but I don't think it should be legal. And I think it should be legal to question the Holocaust and World War II. I think it should be perfectly legal. And in some countries it isn't. The two that come to my mind are Italy and Germany. I think in those two countries it's illegal. I don't want to make mistakes. But this thing which has happened is, I think, unfair and wrong. It shouldn't have happened. Now, you can disagree with her, which is perfectly fine. But throwing her in jail for having a different opinion, especially when she lived through that era and you didn't, is ridiculous. That's my argument. And this is a very controversial thing for me to say, because it's very easy for somebody to look at this part of the video and label me as a Nazi, but I don't care. It is fine by me, to be frank with you. And this is just an example of censorship, but this is one of the stupidest examples, to be fair with you. But let's see what's happening in the UK. Keir Starmer, who's basically, I'm not going to say he's far left, but he might as well be. I mean, he's not a socialist, or he's not completely a socialist or a communist, but people have been thrown in the UK, in UK jails. So UK is going crazy. And this Keir Starmer is incompetent, to say the least. This dude is incompetent, weak, all the bad adjectives you can think about. This dude basically has thrown his government has thrown hundreds of people in jail for things they've said on X. And they're basically now censoring people on X. If you are a UK citizen, and I know many people who follow me from the UK, especially from Canterbury. This t-shirt is from the University of Kent, the place I was in a couple of months ago. And I know many of you, I know that many of you live there. And what Keir Starmer is doing is ridiculous and is unacceptable, and it is censorship, and we should condemn it and we should attack it in all ways. And I believe that this thing has been going on for years and years, this thing of wanting to censor, and it is increasing, it is getting worse. But now we are at a historic moment because Elon Musk has bought X, Trump has won. Freedom of speech is coming back. And I'm going to tell you something. You're going to see the revenge, and you're going to see, I would say, the reactions of Gen Z. I really believe this generation is going to be very radical in some ways. We're going to have a very big contingency who's going to be completely, and that is, we're going to have a big chunk of Gen Z and Gen Alpha who's going to be based, but really based. Guys, I'm talking about stuff which has not been seen in many years, I would argue. Why is that? Because putting all of this pressure and more, basically they're putting all of this pressure, they're saying all of those things to young men, and they feel like they want to explode. And when freedom is back, and it is coming back with Trump as the president, a massive cultural win, we've talked about that already, with all of these things happening, with Musk buying X, with independent media rising, CNN is dying, BBC is dying, MSNBC, however it is called, it is dying, Joe Rogan is on the rise, podcasts are on the rise, independent media is on the rise. Guys, this is a massive change. People underestimate it massively, but this change is very big. Trust me, because information is what really matters. Through the control of information, systems have managed to indoctrinate populations. Let's think about all the nations in South America. Guys, I've been to Cuba many times. And there is, despite communism being so bad, and despite communism having destroyed completely and utterly Cuba, because Cuba, before Fidel Castro took over, Cuba was one of the best countries in America, North and South America, both of them. Cuba was one of the best countries in the whole continent. Now it is a shithole. Why is that? Very simple. Of course, because of the communist regime and all those things. And we see the effects that communist regime has had upon Cuba to this day. We still see them. And despite all of this, despite it is clear that the consequences that communism has had upon the nation have been so bad, despite all of this, there is a big part of the Cuban population that still is pro-communism. Why is that? Because Cuba is a dictatorship and has been a dictatorship for 70 years, 60 years, whatever it has been. Therefore, what's happening is this. What has happened is this. Since the population has only had access to communist propaganda, they are going to believe that. If they tell you something for a long enough time, and they only tell you that thing on a long enough time frame, you will start believing it. We are seeing it. Now, there is a big part, not so big, but there is at least a 30% or 20%, let's just say this. I've been to America. I mean, I don't know much about America, to be honest with you, but I would say that there is a 20 or 30% of Americans who believes that there are more than two genders, which is of course asinine. Two sexes, maybe it's better to say that. Why is that? Because they've been pushed the propaganda. Very simple. If they had consumed unbiased sources of information, they wouldn't have believed those things. I would say so. I think it's a pretty logical assumption to make. But with the Cuba example, I wanted to say that that it is clear that if you control information, you control what people think. And I feel like the media, now this thing is going to change with podcasts and independent media. I read an article, or there are rumors saying that Trump won't allow certain news outlets in the White House briefing press room. I think something like that, and I hope it happens, guys. I hope that the press room is going to be filled with independent podcasters, right-leaning, left-leaning, centrists. If there is no CNN, guys, Trump needs to do this because this would be the final straw for mainstream media. Kick them out of the White House. Who's going to be in the White House? Joe Rogan, all the podcasters. I can't think of their names. I can just think of Joe Rogan because it's the most popular dude. But if we only had independent media or mainly independent media, guys, that would be a massive change, and the MSM would start dying, really. The mainstream media isn't dead yet, and that's why I tell to all of you to keep fighting until the end. And especially, we cannot give an inch, not even an inch. We need to be strong, we need to be decisive, and we need to keep fighting until the end, until we get the things we want. And even there, we cannot give them an inch. The system doesn't deserve an inch from us. They deserve a big F you. I want to try to be as less rude as possible, so I'm going to avoid saying curse words. That's what they deserve. They don't deserve even an inch from us. So that's why we need to be decisive in that way, in that regard. But if the only people who are going to if the only people who are going to ask questions to the president in that room are going to be people from the podcast sphere, I think the world is going to change massively from that. MSM would start collapsing. X is the news, guys. Elon Musk, as I said in one of the last videos I made, has single-handedly, in my opinion, changed the course of history. His purchase of X has changed the course of history. Because before Elon Musk, there was no free speech. And now he has set the tone. With X being so pro-free speech, Facebook is becoming more free speech. YouTube is becoming more free speech. Instagram is becoming more free speech. And then we have platforms like Rumble that is pro-free speech. Very pro-free speech. A big cheer to Chris, the CEO of Rumble, who is an amazing person, who's done an amazing job. So big props to him and big props to Elon Musk. To sum this video up, because I've talked about many topics, and I feel like I managed to get across what I wanted to get across. Let me just tell you this. This is a spoiler. In 2025, things are going to change massively in this channel. As you can see, the quality of my videos isn't great. I do videos unscripted. I don't write anything down before making my videos. I don't do research. But I will start doing research in 2025, or at least at the end of 2024. In these Christmas vacations, I will work as hard as I possibly can in order to learn how to edit the video properly. This is a big announcement I'm making. Guys, I will start editing videos in 2025. I will start focusing on long-form videos, and shorts will not be about Trump. Shorts will be about me and this channel. Because we are going to go viral with long videos and with the shorts about the long videos, not Trump. As you know, there is a very famous bet going on with a guy who was sometimes commented on this channel. Unfortunately, some of his comments have been deleted for violating the community guidelines of YouTube. I don't know why. YouTube! This is my channel. It is fine if Greg uses the N-word towards me. It's not offensive to me. It's actually, to some degree, even a compliment. It's fine by me, YouTube. Don't censor his comments. I want him. But as you know, there is this bet going on with Gregory, to use his full name. I know Greg, don't worry. But there is this bet going on, and I think in 10 days, it's going to be a W for us. Basically, I have to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And we're getting closer to that because we are at 737 in the moment I'm speaking right now. And should I reach 1,000, which unless I get banned or hacked, should happen very easily, he's going to go bold, and I'm going to win this bet, and I'm going to save myself from going bold, plus running 50 kilometers and doing 500 push-ups. I mean, those two things would be the worst. Because I have short hair. I go bald in 3 weeks, I'm fine. Don't care, built different. But doing 50 push-ups, doing 500 push-ups and running 50 kilometers wouldn't be great. But it looks like I'm not going to do it. So that's why I'm doing shorts, because I have to make sure I get to 1,000. After I get to 1,000, the Trump shorts are going to come to an end. Trump, I love you. We're still going to talk about Trump. And my shorts about me will begin. And next year, I'm gonna make that announcement in the video I celebrate reaching 1,000 subscribers, and in the video where I celebrate the total victory of this bet. But there is gonna be a big announcement. But I can tell you that in 2025, it is all gonna be better. It's gonna be explosive. The quality of the videos is gonna go up massively and drastically. It's gonna be a massive change. So get ready for that. Now, final thoughts of the video. The conclusions I drew are: Gen Z is gonna be reactionary, and so is Gen Alpha. They're gonna be reactionary. They're gonna be radical also in some ways, and they're gonna be very, very against this woke mind virus, and they're gonna be heavily against the far left propaganda. That's my prediction. You're gonna see fireworks. You're gonna see sparks. It's going to be very entertaining and it's going to be very interesting. But, as I've said in the video about Elon Musk, the years after COVID will be remembered. From COVID to the Trump win, this 4-year period is going to be remembered as the period where the pendulum bent. That's the past of bent. Where the pendulum bent towards justice, towards truth, and towards freedom of speech. And it is going to be remembered as the pivotal moment where the MSM finally lost, and young men and the youth as a whole, because also young women, especially young women, have finally been liberated from the far left propaganda, from the propaganda machine, from the establishment. These 4 years in between COVID and Trump's win have been, and I believe in history will be, very important. We will remember those years. And I'm saying this now. Let's see if in 10 years I'm going to be proven completely and utterly right or deadly wrong. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun to see. But guys, stay tuned and buckle up, because when we get to 1,000, it's going to be so great. That video is going to be legendary. It's going to be history. It's going to be the celebration of a total victory in which very few believed. So folks, stay tuned and see you very soon. I love you all.